Hello, comrades.
Hello.
Hi. We welcome you back to our studio, and of course, we want to congratulate you on the recent 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day. Today in the studio we have Zhenya Isaev. Hi, Zhenya.
Hello, hello.
And of course, at first you won't guess what we will be talking about because Zhenya, as we said last time, is involved in various things for us. So I'll give you a hint. Today we will be talking about the map, about the map of Korea. The conversation will be about what makes this map new, how it differs from what we did before, what new technologies we are using, what new approaches we are taking, and of course about its features, because this area is very unique. We have not done anything like this before, and accordingly we have developed a lot of new things, various new approaches. So let's start with in general, about the map, some of its general parameters and some unique features of this area that we reproduce in the game.
Yes, indeed. This is a unique map in our work. We haven't made one like this before. Its first distinction is the size. This is the biggest map we have ever made. The map itself measures 500 by 500, and the flight zone will be 440 by 440 kilometers.
Let's just give a brief comment on why we're doing it this way.
Yes.
That is, what are we doing this for? It's so that this...
Yes, well, obviously, when we reach the edge of the flight zone, we still see a beautiful landscape in the distance. Indeed, the landscape actually becomes visible quite far, up to the limit of the horizon visibility, which is another 150 kilometers. But those 150 kilometers are not a detailed map, but a detailed map is exactly 30 kilometers from the edge of the flight zone. Accordingly, 30 kilometers from each side. In total, if we subtract 60 from 500, we get 440 kilometers.
Thanks to this, taking off from an airfield located right at the edge of the map won't upset you at all.
Yeah. Everything will be visible in detail in any direction. No? So actually, we are working out 500 kilometers. Therefore, for us, we call it a 500 kilometer map, because the detailed area is exactly in the 500 by 500 kilometers zone. Well, that's the first difference. To the second difference, perhaps I would call the uniqueness of nature in this region the second difference, because it's a peninsula, a very mountainous peninsula. Let's say a kind of twisted, interesting coastline that we didn't have before. We had a fairly long coastline on the map of Normandy, but it was quite straight compared to Korea.
There is a word, uncut.
Yes, it really is.
A strange word for this, right?
On top of that, this map is very mountainous. And before this, we had a map of Kuban, also with mountains. It turned out great back then, but here the mountains are of a different kind, and accordingly, they're more diverse or something like that.
And it's already been a long time since we made the Kuban Mountains, almost 10 years ago. Yes.
And besides, we will probably talk a bit later about the technologies and what's changed in the map. Now we can create more detailed mountains than before. This should make it more interesting and beautiful. What else? Well, right now I'm talking about differences, not so much in the direction of increase. I'll just talk about some parameters of the map of Korea. We won't have as many airfields here as, for example, on the Normandy map, and it's not because we don't want to make a lot of airfields. Like we would be happy to do so, but we are creating a certain historical landscape, and accordingly all the data that we could find. More precisely, we have collected comprehensive historical data, and according to this data in our area, in the area of our map, there will be 21 airfields. More precisely, there were 21. We will recreate them all. These are historical airfields. There is information on each one, and sometimes more, sometimes less. Unfortunately, it's not always possible to find the information directly. It's quite informative, right? So, but there is information everywhere. Accordingly, some airfields will be accurately reproduced for us. These are mainly American ones, because there is much more information preserved about American airfields. Well, there is a little less about North Korean and Chinese airfields, but we still have a basis to rely on. These airfields will also be reproduced in detail.
A brief remark about airfields. Here's the story. Almost half of them are located in mountainous areas.
Yes, yes.
And finally, we had this to start approaching the topic of aircraft landing and taking off in mountainous conditions. Because when there is an airfield between gorges designed on regular logic for flat European terrain, it all stops working. Now they will land right there between the gorges. No?
This is an example of how technology is developed due to compelling
Absolutely
reasons.
right.
So now we have a new system for landing the bots. What else? Now probably about the populated areas. Right here we have a really big difference. There will be many populated areas on this map, very many more than on any other map. On these populated areas.
You mean more than in Normandy?
In terms of quantity, yes. Well, in Normandy there were probably more populated areas, well, rather large cities. Here there are fewer. Here there are not so many large cities, mainly villages, but nevertheless there will be many. I will not name the exact total number of the settlements now, but as of today 502 have already been completed. In Normandy there were about 415, I think, if memory serves me right.
Actually, we mentioned the overall number, by the way. We plan for up to 800 there, if possible.
Around 800. But again, it appears more. For example, we originally planned for 23 airfields, but it turned out that 2 of them are located outside our flight zone. Therefore, their number was reduced. Similarly, with populated areas, we are in the process of their, so to speak, implementations. We might sometimes come across certain nuances, and the number might change. Yeah. Nonetheless, we operate on this principle, starting from the largest and, shall we say, most essential populated areas. Hence, the largest and most essential ones, those that are precisely in the zones where combat actions will be reconstructed. These populated areas are already prepared. So now we are already working on secondary populated areas. So the image in these zones where the main events are unfolding, the image of the map in terms of populated areas, it has already taken shape. Therefore, I am not too worried about it.
Okay, let's probably move on. Having outlined in broad strokes what this map is, let's move on to what makes it unique in terms of new visuals and technologies. This is generally called a feature overview. Which ones would you highlight? Because a lot was actually done there to implement all these features on the map, firstly. Secondly, to bring it to a new level. What would you highlight?
Yes, I will try to remember, because of course all the changes appear quite smoothly for us, and here it is sometimes even difficult to remember when something appeared. The appearance of the map is of course inseparably linked with the environment. Environment, right? With the atmosphere, let's say, and we have already said many times that we have a new physical atmosphere model, and this of course is reflected in the appearance of the map as well, because the atmosphere does not exist by itself, right? This method, it's like a part of the rendering that is connected to the surface. So accordingly we have new landscape shading models that have been created. We have a new model of fog, mist and all that, of course. It affects the appearance of the map. This is the first, right? Secondly, we're now using kind of a new approach to texturing the map. What's this? So throughout the history of our studio and our project, we have used different approaches to texturing.
It has always been a quest.
Yes, there has always been a
always tried to grow.
Yes, and often these decisions in the texturing method were dictated by the very nature of the location itself. How characteristic are farmlands or some natural elements? Accordingly, we chose the most convenient and rational texturing method, but on this map of Korea, we had to use all of our previously used methods together, right?
All types of terrain are represented.
All these areas are represented accordingly. We have a rather comprehensive approach. We use different texturing methods for this. We use more automatic methods, like on the map of Stalingrad. It's a flat area. Listen, I don't even know if it's worth saying. We have our own internal terminology, right? And whether it's worth mentioning there, because it's probably only clear to us.
Well, maybe this is another piece of text with an asterisk.
Yes, we had a glossary.
Yes.
So basically, this is the tile texture that is applied to the entire map, right? And the places that we want to work on naturally, I mean, it's the opposite. The whole area is roughly textured with fields, and the natural ones are certain zones, canyons, ravines, shores that we textured on top of. This is Stalingrad, yeah. This is our very first method, because whether this area was suitable for such an approach, it prompted us to use this approach. In Moscow, on the contrary, it was vice versa on the map of Moscow. There are many forests and not that many fields, so we added the textures of the field patches manually. On the map of the Kuban, we used procedural texturing over a large area of the map because there is a lot of mountainous terrain, and accordingly, the mountainous area here uses procedural texturing. Well, basically, well-configured shaders make sure that the mountain slopes specific textures are applied to the mountain slopes, and the snow textures are applied to the mountain peaks, and so on.
Yes, and this engine does it automatically based on some not very complicated conditions, let's say height, slope over there, right?
Yes, but it still allows. It's quite simple in terms of technology and performance to get an image of a particular location. On the Normandy map, we also used an integrated approach because all of Europe is densely, populated, and accordingly there are agricultural lands everywhere, fields everywhere, but nevertheless there is terrain. We also had to use autogeneous texturing and apply large areas of fields on the map of Normandy. We also had to come up with certain methods to make such large areas of fields without visible repetition of textures.
Yes. This is one of the issues on the map of Kuban, which existed, but after some time was overcome on the map of Normandy.
Yes, I'll remind you that we use a classic approach, as they say, in game development, where we have a limited number of textures, and with this limited number of textures, we cover the entire map using Hunaic text layers for such part of the terrain is not available for this type of game. Let's say yes, and that's why we use this method. Well, in general, on the map of Korea, we will use all these methods. We have on the map of Korea, what else makes it different? We probably have the richest texture nomenclatures. We have many types of fields. So we had to make this happen for this map, right?
The fields are nestled into the mountain valleys, yes? These cultures here, you see, and there lies a mountain valley and the fields follow its terrain. It turned out very beautiful.
Yes, geometry. And often, of course, it is impossible to do this automatically because there are some automatic methods, but they always have certain drawbacks. And this kind of work, it has to be done manually. The guys from the map department, they are certainly doing a tremendous job in texturing the natural part of the map. Probably with Korea, we have the most labor-intensive work, despite the fact that our technologies are developing quite well. And we can now optimize many things in terms of production. For example, cities. Let's smoothly transition to cities. Cities on the map of Korea and the method of their creation are quite different from what it was before.
Yes, I would say completely.
This is also our new technology. It is pride and salvation for the guys from the maps department.
We refer you to a video that we recorded with Sergei Vorsin some time ago. It's precisely there where we talked about the technology, the so-called tiled blocks technology.
Yes. Well, that's actually an internal name, but in principle, it quite informatively reflects the essence. So creating cities has become easier, and we are not only chasing simplicity, but also cities have started to look more harmonious, because previously we used to assemble cities from separate blocks, and often there could arise a situation where, due to the terrain or when we're trying to reproduce
Well, yes, yes.
the appearance of the city is as it is. These are not abstract cities, but often quite detailed replicas of the prototype. And with past technology, when we also had a limited number of blocks, we had to build the shape of the city correctly. Not always did these blocks fit, but now we can create blocks on the fly of any shape from patches of these textures where they appear in a certain place. Consequently, work has been reduced by half. We don't need to set textures and objects separately. Therefore, we are sketching, yes.
And the detailing improved because this new technology turned out to be more optimal than the previous one. With higher building density, more detailing, and more details on houses, they became much more detailed than they were before. I'll attach screenshots. At the same time as this, our frame rate did not decrease, so to speak.
Yeah. So basically, here we can say that the progress is evident in this place, well, as in many others, but here specifically in terms of production. We, of course, have risen a few steps higher. We talked about the settlements, right? And what about their number? Well, this technology is what has allowed us to increase the number of settlements so much.
Let's briefly talk about airfields and how they will fundamentally differ from what was before. And they are significantly different. Screenshots are in one of the diaries. I provided a screenshot comparison there and took the best airfield from Normandy. And a typical airfield in Korea has a noticeable difference, no? And this, even though it was a preliminary airfield from Korea, which was just a draft version, still it was already fundamentally different. So tell us, what details and features distinguish the technology of creating airfields? How will they differ visually?
What exactly do you want to talk about here? You're giving me direction.
Yes, firstly, the visuals. That means our concrete will have multi-layer texturing. The airfields will have reliefs, not flat like a table now. Well, at least that's the case.
Yes, yes. Well, there is a lot. Let's go step by step, and I'll give a detailed response on these topics. Indeed, our texturing technology has changed. Our landscape texturing technology uses surfaces. It has several varieties, and one of the varieties is designed for making airfields. And accordingly, this technology has changed. We now have multi-channel texturing, and now we, for me, of course, it's definitely become easier to work with. With simplicity of work comes, with the simplification of work comes an increase in the rate.
Details, because doing things more simply means you will do more and have more details.
Absolutely right. So I think we will touch on this topic repeatedly. So multi-channel texturing allows for a more diverse surface. Runways, taxiways on the airport surface. So what is the issue exactly? It's probably worth explaining a bit. If we have a detailed texture like a concrete surface, let's take for instance an airport surface made up of hypothetical slabs. Right now we can dive right into the technology of airfield construction as well. Let's keep it brief. Yes. But not all airfields that seem to have slabs actually have slabs positioned there. More often than not, especially in the West, these airfields are built with poured concrete and then cut into joints to prevent the runway from cracking. So this is the slab on the airfields. It can vary, but let's take 5 meters. One of the standard ones is a 5 by 5 meter slab. Accordingly, for our texture, which is either 2048 or 4096, depending on which texture we use, with maximum detail, it turns out that the texture of 4096 will have a size of 20 by 20 meters in the world. That's when we get a sufficiently detailed surface under the wheels, under the feet, but what's the flip side of the coin? So the flip side of the coin is that there's noticeable repetition of so-called textures, and from a distance, when we look along the stripe, we see this texture repeating. You've probably seen this in games repeatedly. Our task is to ensure that this is not noticeable. That's it. Here we have multi-channel texturing technology. First and foremost, it allows us to get rid of this problem. In Koyon, we apply detailed textures, and this is just one of the layers. Then another texture is applied, which adds variety to a large area. Accordingly, we can texture one channel over 20 meters, and the second channel can be textured over 2000 meters. And the next texture introduces color variety and texture tonality variety. We can add dirt where and here, and on a multi-channel surface like this. When it's multi-channel textured, it already looks much better. It's completely different. So
Well,
it
of
looks
course, yes.
different now.
And the main thing is that it looks more interesting from above. I mean, it's one thing when you're standing on the airfield and looking, say, in the cockpit. That's one problem. The second problem is when you have climbed above the airfield at a great height, for example, 2 kilometers, and you are looking at it. If just one or another texture is used there, yes, up close it might be very detailed and you might see different pebbles on it. But from above, it will look like a gray stripe. It's just this stripe because everything has merged. There are no large details, just a gray stripe, and you need a lot of detail, including one that in terms of the entire airfield, here is lighter and here is darker, and here are the rubber marks from landing and so on. And this is also solved with the help of this task.
The tool is so flexible that we can, for example, use the first channel with detailed texture in local coordinates, and the second layer, which will apply global shading to the aerodrome, will work in absolute coordinates. Accordingly, several pieces of the aerodrome that we are connecting, it will have a perfect texture junction, which is used in the global coordinate system. So it's kind of hard to explain all of this in words.
No, you've already explained. Let's talk about the terrain.
Terrain, yes. About the terrain. One of the differences in our map is the detailed landscape grid. Previously we had a landscape grid detail of 50 meters per pixel, but now in Korea it's 25, twice as detailed.
It's linear twice, but in terms of density, it turns out to be, in terms of area, 4 times.
4 times, yes.
The detail above is 4 times more.
4 times the detail, and well, linearly it seems only twice as much, but when in 4, it looks when we say 4 times, it already seems significant. Actually, this is key to this is quite a significant change, because this change made it possible to create non-flat runways, among other things. 50 meters of detail step is still not there, but 25 meters is enough. Now it's like in real life for us. Now the runways won't be flat, and they will have a certain bend. Of course, in real life they try to make the runway flat, but it is flatter in the transverse direction, while in the longitudinal direction it is practically impossible to level a kilometer-long piece of land into a flat
If we
mirror.
call our Chinese comrades, they can do it. Completely change the landscape. Well, it's too expensive.
Yes, I think that sort of thing, it would definitely be far too expensive and impractical, even for someone like them.
Yes, and you can even feel it. I mean, if you have a decent slope, you start your run up, and at some point, the plane takes off on its own because the runway is lowering under you. These are really interesting sensations. In some cases, on the test maps, it was almost comical. They added the lane, but forgot to level the taxiways next to it. Or maybe they didn't forget, just didn't get around to it. And the plane couldn't enter the airfield because it didn't have enough power, and the taxiway was at such an angle.
Well, it's more like...
Well, it won't be like that, of course, but it works too. That is, in the extreme case, the technology even allows it.
Yes. What about the airfields? Well, we have changed the list of objects for airfields, yes, which will be used, but it has become richer. Consequently, the airfields will look richer and more elaborate than on all the other maps, even compared to other projects already, because and as I often use the phrase on other maps, it's probably correct to say in another project now, because it's not just another map, now we have another project. The technologies and approaches have changed a lot, so of course this is on another level already.
Let's just go over the main points, okay? I think we will have a second part where we answer questions. We'll record that separately. Let's outline what's fundamentally new for us, for example, regarding the road network, right? So we have a fundamentally new approach to it. We incorporate it much better into the terrain, serpentine roads, tunnels, passable dams, cars can drive on them, all that stuff.
Yes, did you and Andrei talk about the roads at the meeting
Yes,
before?
he explained in detail how it is done.
Well, yes, it is probably necessary to mention that we indeed have new categories of objects. These are dams, these are tunnels. It is very cool because tunnels here are simply necessary on this map. Now, after all, it is mountainous. And these tunnels are not just visual portal entrances, they are fully functional tunnels where vehicles can actually pass through.
Let's probably move on to the next point. Our flight is not only during the day, but also at night, right?
Yes, that's right. the cities have light now, and yes, we kind of yeah, the technology was developed some time ago, but it was only recently that we put everything together and looked at it. It looks really cool.
It's amazing,
I'm
right?
satisfied with the result. In fact, it is quite possible. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but we might be able to implement dynamic streetlight shutdown in cities. Do I understand correctly? But we kind of have a basic plan, and we're sticking to it. But this technology allows us to work in this direction, as far as I understand. When you arrive in the vicinity of a city, the lights might shut down due to an air raid alarm.
Let's spend 3 to 4 minutes here at the end on you explaining the fundamental or minor differences and what's new about the artistic approach to Korea. I mean, you are our art director, and specifically, what's different about being an art director? How did they reevaluate the previous experience, and how accordingly does our work differ? Literally 3 to 4 minutes.
Oh, it's probably hard to fit this in 3 to 4 minutes. Briefly, we are trying to keep up with the times and use the most modern technologies, specifically in content production. This is what allows us to work quite comprehensively. Now, if there was no such opportunity before, there simply wasn't such a toolkit, and some parts of the map had to be made separately. Well, not even a map. It's a world, right? Some parts of the world. Then we had to combine, view, and change a particular part separately. Now it pulls another one along with it, and this really dragged out the development time. And when it drags out the development process for us, it meant that there were... it means we can do only so many iterations. Improved tech means we can do more iterations now and consequently get a bigger result. Because from an artistic point of view, how does an artist work? They often work from the general to the specific, and accordingly we just got this opportunity to work in general. We have the tools that allow us to slightly change the color of something like a field and this sort of thing. It is definitely very helpful for us. Yes. This allows for results to be obtained quickly and accordingly improves quality. This lets us work in seasons. By the way, this map is planned to have 5 seasons, which is also a difference from our previous projects. And this is exactly our new comprehensive approach. This will allow us to quickly obtain results, making them more high quality. In terms of creating visual and textural content.
Yes, this sort of thing is what is called expertise, studio expertise. We have accumulated a wealth of experience and knowledge, a wealth of technologies. Experience multiplied by technology gives a fundamentally new result. On this note, let's probably wrap up this part. In the next part, which will be a bit shorter, we'll answer questions because we have received several on this topic. They are not only numerous but also interesting, so we'll dedicate a separate short episode to them. Zhenya, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, by everyone for now, and stay in touch, follow our channels, subscribe and like. See you around.